Good morning, good morning. Good morning. Yes, happy Earth Day, everyone. My name is Caitlin Lyons, and I'm an editor at the Washington Business Journal, and I'll be your MC for today. I'm so excited to be here in this beautiful space with all of you, with some of DC's top business and policy leaders. It's great to be with and in community any day, but especially today. Today's event is being hosted by 3 incredible organizations that are leading the way on making DC more affordable and sustainable for residents and businesses: DC Green Bank, Groundswell, and the DC Chamber of Commerce. The cost of living and doing business in DC are in the news almost daily. Trust me, you can check out our newsletters. And what's important to know is that why we are here is that there are solutions happening all over the city, showing the rest of the country what's possible when it comes to affordability, housing, and community resilience. I'll be joined in a few minutes by Brandy Collender, CEO of DC Green Bank, Michelle Moore of Groundswell, Chinyeti Hubbard, President and CEO of the DC Chamber of Commerce, and Chip Ellis, the owner of Howard Theater. Now, it's early, okay? Has everyone had their coffee? Yes. Please continue to have some. But I want to acknowledge the fact that we're here, and there's a lot of places where we could all be right now, but you're here today because of the tireless efforts of those leaders. So could we give them a round of applause? Before we get going, I also want to acknowledge some local leaders who will be joining us through today's program. Mayor Muriel Bowser, Deputy Mayor Nina Albert, and DOEE Director Richard Jackson. These organizations are all playing different roles in making DC a national model of resiliency for businesses and residents alike. Now, before we dive into our conversations, I'm going to bring Chip out here to tell you a little bit about today's venue and why it's the best possible place to host this event today. Chip?
Good morning, and welcome to the historic Howard Theater. I'm so happy you all could come here and be a part of this Earth Day celebration at the historic Howard Theater. The Howard Theater is the oldest major theater built for African-American entertainment in the country. It's one of the 500 treasures under the Save Our American Treasures program. It is the place where, on this very stage, we've had some of the greatest artists that have ever performed in the 20th century. Excuse me, I don't know what's going on. Amber Alert on Earth Day. And so we've had some great history here. When I took on this project back in 2005 to restore the theater, we tried to do our best to, insulate a building that was, in terms of sustainability, insulate a building that was built in 1910 and probably was, being run on coal at one point in terms of its energy source. We tried to build a 21st century, a contemporary interior, and try to do our best. But when we finished the theater in 2012, the HVAC system that we had to use was insufficient. It was, I don't want to say it was a piece of you-know-what, but, and it lasted us only about 7 years. And so we had to look at getting another HVAC system, which is very costly. It was about $1,100,000. And so, it was really hard to figure out how we were going to undertake that large expense. And fortunately, I had a conversation with my friend Ed Hubbard, and he talked to me about the Green Bank and how that might be able to be of help. And so we've been able to put together a number of different finance sources, but Green Bank being the principal source of finance, to have a new HVAC system on this building. We've been able to also put a solar system to try to keep us sustainable and try to keep these energy bills as low as we can, get them. If you can believe it, the Howard Theater spends probably upwards of $200,000 just on probably electricity. And so that's a very big number for a historic building to try to undertake. And, it's a great gig if you can get it at Pepco, I can tell you that. So, we're really proud of what we've done, and I'd like to thank Uprise Solar for their help. I'd like to thank DC Preservation League. I'd like to thank the Green Bank, DOEE, and the Commission on the Arts for helping us with a grant as well, so this would be possible. This wonderful LED wall is also a product of us being able to finance so that we can be able to have something like this and know that hopefully that we'll have some savings with the solar roof, but very critical for us to be able to have for a multifaceted venue like we have here. So with that, thank you very much, and happy Earth Day.
Fantastic. That's an incredible story. I just love hearing about the mix of preserving historic nature, meeting today's new technology, and what incredible results that merger can bring. So happy to be here. I encourage all of you at the end of the program to make sure you walk around, see the murals downstairs. It's just a really, truly beautiful space. So, shall we get things going? We've got a jam-packed day. Want to be respectful of everyone's time. We're going to go ahead and kick off our first panel discussion. Now, I'm sure you've all seen that utility bills in the headlines lately. Good job where you can get it at Pepco and Exelon. What you've probably seen less of are the ways that organizations across the city are helping households with low incomes lower their bills and make their homes more resilient to the extreme weather we've all been facing. I'm not over the hot temperatures we saw earlier this month, and I'm not looking forward to seeing them later this month. So what a timely discussion to be having. Please help me welcome the moderator of this panel, Michelle Moore, CEO of Groundswell, a national nonprofit that partners with local utilities, community groups, churches, and state agencies to deliver energy solutions. Michelle?
On Earth Day than celebrating leadership here in DC. I am so delighted to be leading this panel discussion with y'all, and we're going to get everybody introduced and talking here in just a moment. But I also want to recognize that everyone who's joining us here today could easily be up on that stage giving a master class in how to deliver affordability and resilience with clean power. So just to recognize all of y'all on this extraordinary day, I want to ask if you, let's see, it's DOEE and DCSCU folks, if y'all could stand up if y'all are here. Let's see. Yes, thank you very much. These are folks making it happen. Incredibly important for the programs we're going to be talking about and all sorts of other wonderful things that enhance our quality of life here in the district too. So if you are here and you help to architect the Solar for All program, any of the great clean energy programs in DC, if you've been part of the DC Green Bank, Groundswellians, y'all are a part of this too. If you have helped to finance a project, if you've helped to build a project, if you could please also stand up and be recognized. Thank you, yes. So lots of love for the expertise, lots of love for the commitment that's in this room today, too. And I also want to give special recognition to my colleagues Crystal Virgil, Rashad Williams, and Chrissy Randolph, who are an extraordinarily important part of the work that Groundswell does in support of DC Solar for All. managing 8,500 household subscribers to the DC Solar for All Community Solar Program. And I had to write this down because you always got to make sure you got the fresh numbers, right? Annual savings of almost $6 million for DC households, right? That's real money right there. That is real money right there. So, to get us started today in our panel discussion, I want to introduce Nadège Nouvial. And Nadège is one of our DC Solar for All subscribers, and she is also one of all of our neighbors here in DC. So, Nadège, can you tell us a little bit about your experience as a DC Solar for All subscriber, and tell us a little bit about your neighborhood?
So I need my mic. Can you hear me? Yeah. So you mentioned $6 million. I'm part of the household who benefit from it, so I'm very grateful to be here. And as a recipient, I wanted to share my experience. And forgive me, I have a little cheat sheet. So the whole journey started with my old house. I have HVAC system that is very old and not efficient. And it was a very hot summer in 2022. My electric bills went through the roof. And I knew I needed help to find a way to lower them. I talked to neighbors. They mentioned a program about solar panels. So initially, when I went to the Department of Energy website to search for information, I was searching for solar panels. And then that's where I found the Solar for All program. And I decided to take the easy road because I think it's easier to get a credit than to build solar panels on a roof. So on the website, there is a description about how the community solar works and the eligibility criteria. So it's basically income thresholds based on the number of people in the household. And I remember being surprised that I qualified. I was not expecting that. So I signed up right away. And it felt easier to earn credit than go through the panel solution. Enrollment process was very easy. I completed a one-page form. I provided my contact information, proof of residence, proof of income, and my PEPCO account. And I submitted everything online, and within 2 weeks, I received an email from Chrissy saying, "You're in." So I was ecstatic because it was very fast. So the way it works is simple. Through the Solar for All program, I receive credits that are applied directly to my PEPCO bill. I don't have to do anything. The savings vary every month. In the summer, when solar production is higher, I receive higher credits, and in the winter months, the credits are smaller, but they still help. The beauty of the system is that if I use less electricity, the unused credits roll over to the next month. So I kind of build up a credit capital, if I may say. I can use it for winter times when it's really cold and I need more energy. So the difference it made for me is, of course, financially. I'm not as stressed as I was when I received my bills because I know I have help. It has improved the quality of life. I mean, we all live in DC. You know, when it's 90 degrees outside and 95% humidity, not everyone can turn the AC on, and I do it in a heartbeat, and that's luxury, true luxury. Overall, I appreciate the community aspect. It's neighbors helping each others. And what I would like to say is that I was surprised that we don't have to produce clean energy to use clean energy. So everyone can make a little effort towards the planet. I enjoy that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nadège. Thank you. I love what you had to say about just neighbors helping neighbors, yes. Right? Neighbors helping neighbors, whether you do choose to put solar on your own roof, whether you're a leading business like Howard Theater, whether you're developing and sharing a community solar project, there's a way that we can reach out and we can share. Now, Chris, you have built the solar project and the energy storage project on this theater. and you are also an entrepreneur in DC. So we would love for you to take us behind the scenes, if you will, and tell us a little bit about the story of developing this project. And you got a bunch of folks in the room who are energy experts and who are thinking about how do we keep this work moving, how do we do this elsewhere. So a little geeky behind the scenes is going to go over well with this crowd. And talk to us a little bit too, just about being an entrepreneur in DC.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Thank you, Michelle, and hello, everybody. Happy Earth Day to everyone. Happy Earth Day. My name's Chris. I'm the founder of Uprise Solar and Roofing, and our company's on a mission to change the way electricity is delivered to people. We do this by bringing energy closer to where it's used, and we do it with technologies like rooftop solar, battery storage, EV chargers, and the smarts to bring it all together. So we're proud, as Michelle said, to have the Howard Theater as one of our clients. It was a privilege to get to work here at this iconic place. We also have hundreds of customers each year that own homes where we put rooftop solar, battery storage, all those things on their home, because they're trying to figure out how to improve not only the way they receive electricity, but how it helps the neighborhoods that they're part of. I think DC really has a lot of things to celebrate here, is one of the things I really wanted to point out. There are two I wanted to highlight. One is that DC really supports entrepreneurship. I am an example of what happens when the city creates a space for a small business to grow, to innovate, and to be part of a just energy transition in our local neighborhoods for our residents, our neighbors, right? And the other thing I really want to highlight is that this doesn't happen overnight. So I feel like DC has a strong clean energy market because of political leadership, but also because of just a constant tending to those commitments, a sustained commitment to those goals to make that happen. And that looks like policy updates and adjustments and persistence over a couple decades now since the RPS was created. And that is how a market like that is created. It's not created overnight. It doesn't just spring up. It's cultivated. And it's something that just takes a lot of effort by a whole community of people. And yes, Michelle, everybody here, a lot of the people in the room I see are people that were here long before me. And we get to be part of this market because of all the work that people have done. And so I just really think those are things to celebrate, especially on this Earth Day. And it's sometimes hard in this world to see what to celebrate, but this is something that the district has done for itself for years. So round of applause to all of you all.
So take us behind the scenes here and tell us a little bit of the story, because one of the things that all of us who work in clean energy know is, and I didn't actually know this until 2 years ago was the first time I heard this term, is that when you work in solar in particular, that you get to ride the solar coaster. Right, have y'all heard that before? Okay, yes indeed. So Chris, tell us a little bit about the solar coaster on bringing this project to fruition.
Where to start? The solar coaster. I've been riding the solar coaster for about 15 years, mostly as a worker, and then in 2021, I started Uprise. It's a whole new journey when it's the highest highs and the lowest lows when you're trying to be an entrepreneur in this space. Last year, everybody was incredibly fearful for a lot of reasons that the federal tax credits are going away, at least for residential. We know it would hurt our business in the long run, and at the same time, we had the biggest year ever. It was like, does anybody remember that Bert and Ernie on Sesame Street when they're in the boat and they call out and they're like, here, fishy, 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 and then all the fish just start flopping in? Okay, well that was last year, you know, and now we're, I guess to keep a fish motif, we're the old man of the sea. You know, so we've got nobody that wants solar. I talked to some of my other solar colleagues, and they're seeing the same thing. You know, and so there's a hangover. We're trying to get people to sign up. So the solar coaster's real, and it goes up and down. And I trust that the system was built right. That all of you all that have helped build the system over the past 2 decades are creating a pretty resilient marketplace and policy system for us to live in, but it is hard. Another
And let me ask you, I'm going to jump in, and moderator's prerogative, zoom in and tell us a little bit about how the battery system ended up on this project. So tell us a little bit about that part of the story.
But wait, there's more.
Oh, no.
No, so where I was jumping to is that this particular project here at the Howard Theater is an example of the other part of the solar coaster, which is this is an old grid in an old city that is not made for these new technologies, not yet. And it has a grid manager that we all need to survive and do well, Pepco. And they're in the unenviable position of trying to make the grid work, even when new technologies that they didn't think about in 1910, when this building had power supply, cabled to it. And so 115 years later, we're saying, hey, we want to actually start sending power from the rooftop onto this aging grid. No problems, right? And Pepco says, oh, there are a lot of problems. That we can't handle that. They start using all their technical terms. Their engineers come and show you why it's not going to work. And so in this particular example, the Pepco had to tell us and tell the owner, Chip, through me, that this neighborhood, this transformer cannot handle what you want to put on your rooftop. And Chip said, no, that's not what we're going to do. We're going to figure out a way. So we basically got two options. One was to help upgrade their system. It included a lot of hardware that Pepco would require in order for Chip to run a solar-only system and just pump out onto the grid during the daytime when the building was not using any energy, and to pull from the grid at nighttime when this place is hopping and their show's going, right? The second alternative was to create a battery storage system and just stock that solar electricity, all those electrons, keep them in here and prevent how much is going out onto the grid. And that's what we built. It ended up costing a little bit less, almost about the same as what Pepco was proposing. And with some back and forth, they were finally able to accept and make it work so that it could work for this building, for this iconic
That's
place.
awesome, and I think that's also, we laugh about the solar coaster, but there's also always a hero story, right? There are often many hero stories in any single project. And here, and again, I want to just appreciate the expertise in the audience. Chip made a decision to spend the money on a battery system instead of spending the money on a transformer that Pepco owns. All right, so it's dollars back in your own pocket, it's values back into your own system. And I think that these are incredibly important lessons for the moment that we're in right now from a market perspective too. And Jess Ennis, Senior Vice President of Invest in Our Future. We are extraordinarily blessed to have you here today because you have such a national market view, but you're also a DC resident with solar on your own home. So zoom out for us and talk a little bit about where we are, talk a little bit about how you have seen DC's leadership informing what's happening around the country too.
Yeah, thanks so much, Michelle. And Nadej and Chris, thank you so much for sharing the stage this morning. And thank you all for being here. What a wonderful way to celebrate Earth Day with a bunch of clean energy leaders. It's really a treat to start Earth Day with all of you. So I'm Jess. I'm with Invest in Our Future, and we're a philanthropic initiative that's focused on accelerating clean energy deployment in more places to unlock more benefits for more people. So we work closely with Michelle and the Groundswell team, but we also have the privilege of working with folks across the country who, at the end of the day, riding the solar coaster, riding the waves of energy efficiency, of all the other technologies in the clean energy sphere, you're all problem solvers, and I think that's the coolest thing. I get to spend my day talking to people who are adapting to these changing landscapes and really charting the path for clean energy, even though the ground keeps getting under your feet. I'm just going to talk about a couple examples that have happened recently, and as Chris was mentioning, there was a lot of uncertainty last year, and there was a moment that all of us at IOF, we were concerned, what does this actually mean for community scale and community-led clean energy deployment? But we just kept hearing from people, and Michelle included. I remember Michelle said, don't flinch. And she was like, we're just going to stay focused on the work and figure out the path forward.
Just a few months ago, we're talking to some partners who work with community development finance institutions that were building out clean energy lending products for a couple of their customers in Kentucky. And I just thought that work might evaporate with the change in scenario. But those local folks in Kentucky were telling our partner, like, we are getting requests for this. We are getting asks for clean energy products because people see that their bills are rising and they want to take more control over it. So we're just seeing it actually at a time when it could be harder, we're seeing a doubling down on these products because people are really starting to see the value here. And that's happening in communities across the country. Now the products all look a little bit different because it needs to be, we are working with folks who are actually deeply rooted in community and working to deploy solutions that actually meet the particular needs of those communities. So like a 100% roadmap. However, we do see folks really going in and kind of creating these solutions. Like another success story, one of our partners, Undaunted K-12, just shared some news about a Minnesota school district that got their first direct paycheck. So that was a check from the federal government for some energy efficiency and HVAC upgrades that they did at schools. So that project made the school safer and cleaner for the kids, and then allowed them to invest some of the savings from that project back into enhancing that school system. So these are just a couple of examples. I think one of the cool things from where we sit at Invest in Our Future is we are able to kind of see all of these the ways that everyone is tackling this problem differently, and you're all tackling them together at the same time. So like we have grantees who are now partnering on workforce, on siting, and just really looking at like kind of diving right into where these problems are the biggest. And so that's such a joy. And just on the question about DC, so I do have rooftop solar, and I've been doing clean energy and climate work for almost 20 years, and this is the first time that I've had friends and neighbors calling me. Just a couple weeks ago, my neighbor 2 doors down, she was like, wait, you work on energy, right? And we literally sat down with her electric bills, and I was like helping to talk her through, like, this is why it's gone up, like rates are increasing. And she was like, I don't think I've used more heat or more AC. And I think this is a moment for all this work because you have all these new people coming in, and DC actually has the receipts. DC has created a roadmap for the whole country for how you can actually solve these problems. So I think we are really fortunate to be sitting here in the district and the place that has been on the leading edge of the clean energy transition. And I think we're just going to, every single person in this room, I'm sure, is getting those calls where your work is actually the kitchen table issue, and people are more interested in what your day-to-day is now than maybe they ever have been before. And luckily, thanks to all the work that's happened here in the district, we have some solution sets that I know many of you are actually working on applying in other places. So these are the things that are giving me hope, and I think it's something to celebrate, that the leadership here really can play an outsized role. It already has played an outsized role in what's happening across the country, and it can keep doing so in the months ahead.
Thank you so much, Jess. I want everybody to remember, DC has the receipts. All right? When it comes to clean energy, DC has the receipts, right? Because we are in a different market. You know, we're in a different market nationally. I mean, Nadej, you shared a story about like those big electricity bills that came in, and especially when it's hot or when it's cold. But we're in an energy crisis, right? We're in an energy and an affordability crisis nationally. People's bills have gone up around the country on average by more than 14%. I read an article in AP the other day that folks in West Virginia are now paying as much for their electricity bills as they are for their mortgage. Right? Just to keep the lights on, paying as much as their mortgage. And we also don't have enough power, right? When we look out into the future, there's part of the energy crisis is that with AI data centers, regardless of how you feel about them, you know, with AI data center energy use, with reshoring manufacturing, with electrification, we're using a lot more power, and we need a lot more power than we have. So from what we see, you know, from what I see where I sit every day is whereas solar and energy storage and a lot of these distributed grid solutions were a vitamin, right? And not everybody takes their vitamins. Right? Only some people take their vitamins. Today, what we do is an aspirin, right? great projects like this one here at Howard aren't just adding solar to the roof and bringing down the bill and aligning with the values of its ownership, but this is also grid capacity at a time when the PJM market, where we are, is struggling, right? We're an aspirin now, not a vitamin. And that creates all kinds of different pathways to market, and pathways to market at a time when our policy landscape has shifted too, right? Jess, I think you used the description. Folks just keep on pulling the rug out from under you. Things keeps on just like, no, leave it there for a little while longer, please. But tax credits are changing, other aspects of the market are changing, and so we're all, looking for place-based ways that honor community, place-based ways that respond to our federalist energy policy market to keep the good work moving. So before we shift to some audience Q&A time, I want to go down the line here and ask folks, what's the prescription? What do we need to be doing now? What do you see when you look out into the future? Nadej, I'm going to come to you and give you the last word before we shift to audience questions. What do you, as our customer, as the person that we are here to serve, you and your neighbors, what do we need to be doing? But Chris, first, what do you see that's different in terms of the customers who are calling you, and what's a short list, and we'll each have like 2 or 3 minutes on this. What's a short list of problems you want folks in this room to help to solve, or opportunities you think we need to be going after? And then Jess, I'm going to come to you.
Great question, Michelle. I'll talk one about the market in general, and 2 particular to solar, which is our bread and butter. For the market in general, I think there needs to be a clearer value to the benefits, but a dollar value, something where rather than incentives and tax breaks and propped up market that's created our industry, it's time to start evolving towards one that's really just about exchanging electrons and what the value is for that. Because here in our city, which is unique, it's urban, it's a city-state, there are a lot of reasons why local electrons have a high value and should be compensated for that value, whether it's coming from a storage system or solar, wherever it's coming from. It needs a value that represents what it's bringing to the grid. That can be avoided cost of giant infrastructure upgrades, which is the reason we changed from a vitamin to an aspirin is because we are starting to pay for giant infrastructure upgrades that were approved, as if that's the only solution here. There are dozens of technologies that are a solution, and they should get compensated in a way that's clear for them so that the market can go towards the best solutions. The kilowatt that's generated here is so much more powerful than the kilowatt generated in a cornfield and then cabled for dozens of miles to get here through expensive infrastructure. So I want to see a value, and that's kind of like the market as a whole. In our industry, just solar, especially on the residential side, the cost of customer acquisition is nearly just a little under 30% of my entire cost for trying to help a customer go solar. And solar is good for them. It immediately saves them money. If they get to be the owner of the system, they get to get SRECs and used to get tax breaks. It's just part of how I always talked about it, so I need to get that out of my head. But the point is that 30% for customer acquisition, when this market is designed to help customers immediately, it doesn't make sense. I see one of my wonderful competitors out there, Solar Solution, like the original gangsters out there, they see something similar. I don't want to quote JD, but I know they have a high cost of customer acquisition. All the other wonderful solar companies that we compete against see something similar. We could do so much more if we could bring down the cost and reach more customers, more people in a better way. So we need help with that, and I think there are solutions out there that we could talk about.
Thank you so much for that, Chris, because I think it is the point that you make about the value of the grid services that local solar, local energy storage, community-based solar, infill energy development, if you will. The value that provides to the system is increasing, right? It's incredibly important now. Remember, short on power, energy crisis, affordability crisis. solar tax credits and some of the other direct subsidies, that were meant to spur the market are changing or going away. But how do we really value that now in a market-based way? And one that builds on DC's extraordinary leadership, where we have the receipts for the importance of SRECs, for example, as a way of valuing local clean power. So Jess, if you can take us through and look a little bit into the future, what do you see on the horizon? Then Nadej, I'm going to come to you, and then we're going to shift to audience questions.
Yeah, the one on what we need, I think we need more events like this and more people like Nadej willing to tell their stories and talk about how clean energy has benefited them. This is one thing we'll be working on with our partners at IOF this year, is actually uplifting these success stories so people understand that it actually is possible to benefit from clean energy, and hopefully that work will spur more deployment. The more people know about what's actually happening in their community. I just think of, we worked with a bunch of school leaders last year who came in and talked about how either energy efficiency or building upgrades helped save operational costs on schools. No one knew. No one knew that that was happening in their community. So the more that we can actually shine a spotlight on the places where this is happening, the more I think it will inspire more people to take action, make it seem less scary. When you talk about energy, I can see, it can be pretty intimidating. So the more that we can actually talk about this in a people-focused and benefits-focused way and really elevate the people who are leading the charge here, I think it will get less scary. Maybe it'll reduce some of your customer acquisition costs if people actually understand what's happening in their communities more. We're starting to see that, and there was a big study by Lawrence Berkeley Lab a few years ago that once a community center or a church or another facility put solar on the roof, there was a 20% increase in solar in the surrounding neighborhood. So I think we need to take that study and learn and actually spend more time doing that and telling the story. So we do look forward in a couple of years and see that all of the momentum that has been built since DC started its solar program, since the Inflation Reduction Act passed, and having 3 years of those programs that really brought more people into the mix. And we need to tell the stories about those people so that momentum can continue. And we have more projects, more project models that people can shortcut and make more easily, and more lenders offering these products. So we can all be part of the clean energy transition.